Hello and welcome to this documentary where I'll be exploring one of the most fundamental questions of the last decade. The question incorporates terrorism, extremism, violence and war. And that question is, should the UK engage in airstrikes to combat the threat from the so-called Islamic State?
Bombing hasn't worked anywhere, hasn't worked in Afghanistan, Iraq or Libya. It's not working in Syria, so let's cut off the support.
This is an ISIL-first strategy. They are the threat. They are the ones we should be targeting. This is about our national security.
It's becoming increasingly clear that the Prime Minister's proposals for military action simply do not stack up.
A historic decision by the House of Commons to approve British military action against Islamic State targets in Syria by a majority of 174 there, 397 in favour of the government's motion proposed by David Cameron and against 223.
The fundamental point I feel it's appropriate to raise regarding this question is the moral and cultural consequences of bombing such an already war-torn country, and of course the repercussions in years to come. The Syrian people are sick to death of war. There are no schools, hospitals, buildings, shops or remote economic outlets left anywhere in towns and cities across the country. Surely airstrikes from the UK are only going to obliterate anything that's left and not aid the situation one bit. Furthermore, the aspect of human collateral damage really is a dodgy subject. The government will argue all day long they'll do everything they can to minimise this collateral damage, but is that good enough? However, there is a flip side to the coin, as in every political debate, and it's a flip side that must be considered when you're dealing with human life. Should we stand by and watch an extremist group like ISIS take innocent lives? Is it fair, or is it our moral obligation as human beings to step in and take action? To try and gain some answers to these fundamental and significant questions, and of course get a more political view on the matter, I decided to speak to North Yorkshire County Councillor and UKIP representative David Simister in Harrogate to gain his opinion on the ideas. Right, so the question we're talking about today in this film is, should the UK airstrike Syria to combat the threat from the so-called Islamic State?
Yeah.
So the first question, I was just wondering, what is your actual position on the UK involving themselves in coalition airstrikes in Syria?
Shouldn't happen.
Shouldn't happen?
No, shouldn't happen. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Let's look at Libya. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We went in, took out Colonel Gaddafi, and it has been an absolute disaster since. The country is in turmoil. You've got the refugee crisis, which is a lot of it coming from Libya and from North Africa. And why? Because we intervened. And what happened when we got rid of him? There was a vacuum. Power vacuum there always is. And the same will happen in Syria. If we go in there, you can guarantee some of our airmen will get shot down. And is it going to make it any better? No. The people who should be going in are the Middle East, the Arab nations.
You'll probably remember last September, when the vote was happening, David Cameron called everyone who actually voted against airstrikes in the House of Commons terrorist sympathisers. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
What would you say to this? Is that an accurate statement?
No, I'd call him a traitor to the country, actually, with what he's doing with the European debate at the moment. David Cameron is totally wrong. How can I be a terrorist sympathiser just because I do not agree with airstrikes in Syria?
I actually read on the BBC, the airstrikes themselves for a 7-hour 2-plane mission are costing the taxpayer £5 million. However, those who oppose this point could say that the UK does have a £46 billion defence budget. Is it a drop in the ocean, or is it quite a significant amount to the taxpayer?
Well, everything's a significant amount to the taxpayer if it's costing in the tens of millions. So 2 airstrikes, £10 million. And like you say, how many are we actually going to be doing, and what are we going to be achieving?
But it's a minimal amount of GDP.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money when you think about it. When you add it up, 10 airstrikes is what, 50 million. That's a lot of money. That's the same amount we pay to the EU every day, but it's still a lot of money.
In December, a UK-based Syrian observatory said that the coalition airstrikes had hit a civilian village in Syria, killing 26 innocent people. That's just one story out of many, as I'm sure you'll know. Can the government in any way possible, and I'm sure I know the answer to this, but can they justify that at all?
No. If you drop bombs, you're going to hit civilian targets. Collateral damage, there's always going to be innocent people killed in airstrikes. If you do airstrikes, it's not going to achieve anything. You have to have boots on the ground. You have to have forces on the ground going in, mobilised. You cannot do anything or achieve anything simply by airstrikes alone.
Thank you very much for speaking to us.
It's okay.
I really appreciate that.